Greetings, SpongeBob fans! Ready for a new dose of goofy moments and animation errors from your favorite show? Well, get comfortable because here are some fantastic moments that you can find in SpongeBob SquarePants. Number 1. Whatever happened to SpongeBob? Seems like somebody had a big case of amnesia in this episode. We know that SpongeBob's personality can be a little eccentric, but in this episode, our beloved protagonist didn't have the best of luck. In this classic from the 5th season of the show, SpongeBob has a weird day where, after annoying all his friends and close ones, he decides that it's time for him to leave Bikini Bottom. But his misfortunes won't end there, because after running away from some creatures that were stalking him in the night, SpongeBob falls from a very big cliff, hitting his head so hard that he got amnesia. Will our hero regain his memory? Is SpongeBob ready to start a new life? Will he come back to Bikini Bottom? We recommend you watch the episode so you can answer all these questions. Now, let's watch some animation errors.
Hi, SpongeBob.
Hey, Patrick, how goes it?
Well, it was going great until you showed up.
Losing his memory was just one of the bad things that happened to SpongeBob in this episode, but it wasn't the first one. When SpongeBob starts to run away from Bikini Bottom, he suddenly encounters Patrick, whom he spends a little time with. Well, in case you've missed this little detail, when SpongeBob is sitting on the ground talking to Patrick, his teeth turn yellow for a few seconds. We love these kinds of errors.
If I were you, I'd get as far away from me as possible. Idiot boy!
Many other things were lost apart from SpongeBob's memory in this episode. Continuing with things that disappeared in this episode, don't you miss something right behind where SpongeBob is? If you truly are a SpongeBob expert, you might notice that one very important building should be right behind SpongeBob, and it's nowhere to be found. Do you know what it is? If you guessed the Chum Bucket, congratulations, you were right. Plankton's restaurant is a very important building in the landscape of Bikini Bottom, but the animators seem to forget about it during this scene. Number 2. Giant Squidward. Is that a giant Squidward? Many weird things have happened to Squidward during the 20+ years that the show has been running on TV, but imagine that you have a gigantic Squidward in front of you. Well, in this episode, our protagonists are stealing kelp from Squidward's garden right after he sprays it with some growing spray. In typical SpongeBob fashion, both Patrick and SpongeBob have the idea of stealing that spray and start to use it over an ice cream. The problem would come after Squidward, obviously not knowing this, eats a little of that ice cream and ends up becoming a giant Squidward. Will he be able to return to his normal size? How could he solve this situation? Don't miss this episode if you want to know.
Squidward, my man, you are perfect.
We've already told you that Squidward grew insanely big in this episode, right? Well, he might gain a lot of size, but he's missing some trademark features of his body. We see that Squidward is taking a quiet and calm look at his reflection, but if you take a close look at his forehead, his trademark wrinkles aren't there. What a cool way to start the episode. Squidward isn't the only one who misses things in this episode. After all the mess that they've created by making a giant Squidward, both Patrick and SpongeBob create a very cool present for his friend, a gigantic clarinet. But in this scene from the end of the episode, we see that our protagonists are trying to give this special gift to their beloved friend. The cool thing is that if you look at other scenes from the episode in which the outside inside of SpongeBob's house is shown, we see that there are some flowers on the outside. But in some parts of this scene, those flowers have completely gone missing. Number 3, overbooked. Well, SpongeBob might be a very good human being and takes care of nearly everyone, but do you know what SpongeBob can't do? Be at multiple places at once. And, well, that's what this episode is all about. In this episode, SpongeBob has a very big problem in front of him. Sandy asks him for help to finish a science presentation. Mr. Krabs wants him to fix his telescope the same night of the presentation, and even Patrick asks him to buy and prepare a birthday cake all on the same day. Being the good friend and neighbor that he is, he would try to be in the 3 places at the same time so every single one of his friends is happy and achieves everything that they need. Like we usually know, things never go as planned when it comes to SpongeBob, and things can get pretty ugly pretty fast. But what will happen to SpongeBob in this episode? You'll never know unless you watch it.
Without further delay, I shall initiate proto sequence.
Sandy, I hate to delay the proceedings, but I forgot to mail in this mail-in rebate, and I'll be right back.
We told you that Sandy played a big part in this episode, right? Well, this might be because thanks to her, we found an animation error. In this scene, we see that SpongeBob is trying to help Sandy with his presentation while holding Patrick's birthday cake. After Sandy is giving a speech, she's ready to try her newest invention, telling SpongeBob to enter the machine. Have you noticed something strange here? Well, in case you've missed it, when Sandy turns to the machine to see how SpongeBob is doing inside of it, she loses her tail for a brief moment. Be careful, because you'll need very sharp eyes to catch this.
That's my assistant you're talking to. What's going on around here?
Yeah, I'd like to know also. What kind of birthday present is this?
Wait a minute, do crabs breathe out of water? This error might not include any animation mistake or weird coloring frames, but it comes with a very funny moment. When Sandy is finishing her presentation, we see that both Patrick and Mr. Krabs are wearing protective helmets to breathe in the waterless environment that Sandy lives in. This makes sense for SpongeBob and Patrick, since sponges and starfishes aren't able to breathe out of water, but we see that Mr. Krabs is also wearing one. This should not happen, since crabs are able to breathe on the outside. Such a cool detail to find. Number 4, the Clash of Triton. The Krusty Krab is such a well-known restaurant that even gods want to celebrate their birthdays there so they can get a glimpse of what a Krabby Patty tastes like. This is exactly what happens in this episode. Here, Neptune wants to celebrate his 5,000th birthday, and his wife chose SpongeBob's restaurant as the place to celebrate it. This led to SpongeBob cooking a whopping 5,000 Krabby Patties for the sea god itself. During this cooking fiesta, Neptune decides to explain the story of his beloved son named Triton and how he had to imprison him until he learned how to be a proper god. You just can't miss this episode. Now, let's watch some funny moments.
Behold! What did he say?
I think he wants us to look out the window!
Wasn't the audience ready to watch King Neptune? If liberating Triton without the approval of his father wasn't enough, our protagonist caused even more trouble when Triton came through the Krusty Krab's window with his car. At the start of the episode, we saw that an audience was outside waiting for King Neptune to arrive. But when Triton broke into the restaurant, the audience was nowhere to be found. What a strange episode.
Thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah, triple gooberry sundaes tonight after we free him.
No, but I like your idea better.
Make Freddy the disguise.
I was just kidding, man.
Having Neptune in your restaurant is for sure a very special date to remember, and you just have to be dressed for the occasion. In this scene, we see that SpongeBob is wearing a cool and elegant tuxedo, but in the moment in which he's seen hidden inside the chest with Patrick, there are some moments in which the sleeves shown are the one from SpongeBob's usual clothes, even though he's wearing a tuxedo. Triton has caused many mistakes in this episode. Number 5, the inside job. What would you do if you were inside SpongeBob's brain? Well, you might have to ask Plankton, or at least you should watch this episode. Trying to steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula, Plankton tries a new plan. He asks his computer wife Karen to shoot him into Mr. Krabs' brain so he can get the formula from the inside. After failing to do so, Plankton ends up inside SpongeBob's brain. Will he be able to control our protagonist? You'll only know if you watch this episode. Now, let's look at some errors.
Where are those eardrums?
Hey, the lights are back on!
Wait a minute, someone is having another case of yellow teeth again. In this scene, we see that Plankton is completely controlling SpongeBob's body from the inside, and after giving him his vision back, we see that he brings something like a Krabby Patty to a client. After getting scared of what he's cooked, SpongeBob jumps, and it's at this exact frame where his teeth become yellow for a second. You have to be fast to catch this one.
The Krabby Patty recipe! Yes, yes, yes!
How could SpongeBob be alive if his heart is not beating? Continuing his search for the Krabby Patty's secret formula, Plankton decides to search for it in our protagonist's heart. The funny thing is that when Plankton arrives at SpongeBob's heart, we see that it is not beating. How could this be? Well, maybe this was a self-defense measure that SpongeBob took against Plankton, but it's a very weird thing. There you have it, SpongeBob fans. Those are some animation errors and funny moments that you can find in your favorite show. Please subscribe to our channel so we can provide you even funnier and cooler SpongeBob content. Goodbye.